Alright, I'm gonna go for another d4 game, and we'll wait and see what we play against. d5, I saw a lot of c4 suggestions. I'm gonna go with c4. And depending on what happens here, this could transpose into a number of things. e6. Pretty normal, like basically Queen's Gambit declined at this point. Think above and beyond Queen's Gambit declined, you go knight c3, and we'll see if we play an exchange, if he's going to accept. But yeah, this is a really standard Queen's Gambit setup. Ooh, so this will be kind of a fun game. So this one is called the Tarrasch. The funny thing about the name or the word Tarrasch is, like, I don't know how this guy managed, but he's got like 8 variations named after him. I don't know how he did it, but he managed to get like a French variation named after him, a whole entire variation in d4, d5 named after him. Like, this guy's impressive. So if I take on c5, then the idea, among other things, is that the pawn just pushes to d4 and hits the knight. If I take on d5, of course the pawn could take back, but the main idea is actually for the c pawn to take on d4 again. So let's see what he does. I'll play c takes d5, which is kind of the main move. Yeah, so if the pawn took back here, then if we took back, we would be in a little bit of a pin from the queen on d8, and black can try to use that to their advantage a little bit. But this is very standard, and we may simply get a position where we're playing against an isolated pawn here. So taking is an option, but again, it allows our opponent to play d4. So I think I'm going to play knight f3, which is like, you take me, I'll take back. I'm ready for that. And a lot of times for white, the plan is to play g3, bishop g2, castle. The bishop eyeballs that d pawn. This bishop can maybe go to g5 after knight f6 in order to trade. Because if I'm targeting this pawn, playing bishop g5 is one of the best moves I could play. I take the knight, and if the queen takes back, that's 2 defenders of the pawn that got lost based on that bishop takes f6 move. Knight f6. We could play bishop there, e3, bishop e2, but I'm going to go for g3, which is kind of a cool setup to go for. But the idea is bishop g2, castle, and at some point I will take this pawn. I will take it, because then it will be an isolated pawn I can target. But for now, I'm looking to get castled. And no, there's nothing wrong with this development at all. Bishop d6 is honestly a move that I think we're happy to see overall, because if we ever take, then the bishop has to waste time capturing back. So that's a good thing, I think. That's important. Although taking here is probably a move on its own, I'm just gonna continue with our basic plan. Not gonna get sidetracked here with pawn takes while my king's still in the middle. I'm gonna just sort my king out, and then I'll play pawn takes, bishop g5, all that stuff. any kind of action where when the king is still in the middle is usually ill-advised. Knight b5, queen a5, and my best move is knight back to c3. So no point in getting frisky with the king still in the middle. Same for him. So if I'm expecting him to castle, I'll probably do the same. I also don't want to take before I'm ready to play bishop g5, because if I do, maybe d4 happens, and you know, knight e4 is not necessarily the best. Queen a5. Now, why do I love this move? From my perspective, not his. Why do I love this move? Well, many different reasons. But first of all, he's moved his queen. For him to move his queen early in the opening, I can say most likely it's going to be something I can take advantage of, attack it, and make him regret bringing it out. The second reason I think it's a bad move is he's pinning the knight to my king. And my king's about to castle, which is the most natural move on the board, and I'm going to make it right now. I can castle, get out of the pin, and then it's like, okay, why is your queen on this queen side of the board and not even threatening anything in the middle? It's not pinning my knight, it's not doing anything. So I think the queen is misplaced, and now that I'm castle, I'm now going to think about pawn takes pawn and bishop to g5. A nice tactic that you could fall into. Takes, knight d5. Takes, bishop takes f2, and you would lose your queen there on d5. Oops. Oops. So no matter what, we are going to need the move bishop g5. Like, it's going to have to happen. The question is, do we play it now or do we take first? That's what I'm wrestling with at the moment. Maybe maybe a capture first. And then bishop g5. You would have fallen for that. That's okay to admit. It's a safe space. Now he has an isolated pawn. He may take with his queen because he wants to actually defend it, which makes some sense. But again, him developing his queen early, I think that will probably result in some issues here. But we'll see. So queen takes, probably a mistake objectively, because now there's an open c file. So if I bring my bishop out, then rook c1 hits the queen. So definitely liking bishop to g5 here. Can't really imagine any other move. Bishop e3 could be good to hit the queen like this. That's probably the only other move I'd consider, but I don't know. Bishop g5 just seems so strong because bishop e3, the queen might leave the c file, and then my tempo with rook c1 is not necessarily there anymore. So I'm leaning towards bishop g5 and then rook c1 to gain time on the queen. Yeah, bishop e3, bishop d4 is like okay, but after knight d7, the knight's always ready to take back. I don't like my bishop blocking my queen there. I'd rather have full pressure on the d5 pawn. But I like this because, I mean, both bishop moves gain time, but I feel like my next move is going to gain time on the queen, and I'd rather this bishop move gain time on the knight. If I move this bishop to attack the queen, then it moves. Rook c1 is not going to be as powerful because it's not going to hit anything. So this comes with a threat, and then it sets up this being my next move, which will come with another threat. It kind of seems beneficial to split up my threats rather than bishop e3 and rook c1, which both attack the same thing. Definitely want to point out that I think Black's played a really nice game. it's not really it's not really his fault here, other than Queen A5 that he's in this position. He chose some really good developing moves, castled. Queen A5 I would trade in for, you know, Knight C6, let's say. But other than that, it's been really solid. What did I say I was planning to do after this? I said Rook C1. There's not really any point, in my opinion, of playing takes and takes on D5 just yet. I just feel like Rook C1 is clearly gaining time, so start with that no matter what. Okay, Knight G4, so not doing anything about the C file, which is concerning because now Knight takes D5, hits the queen, and hits the bishop. I think you guys can appreciate a move like Knight D5 is pretty crushing, honestly. Knight takes E7 is a big threat. F2, which he was targeting with his last move, is defended, and the bishop, which incidentally he was targeting, is also defended. So I think this is going to be too much. But notice how, like, you know, I have my king castled, I have my setup here, pieces developed. Everything I did was with tempo, bishop out, rook out, and now we can see that he's sort of been moving his queen over and over again. He moves his bishop over and over again. He moved his knight over and over again. He's moved a bunch of pieces multiple times, and I've just moved every piece once. Finally, I move a piece a second time, but it's like to win a ton of material. I guess that's too much. I don't think he noticed the discovered attack, but a good habit is, like, if someone ever aims a piece at your queen, even if there's stuff in the way, it's time most likely to move your queen out of the way, because you probably can't even appreciate all the possible threats that might exist now. Or if you don't move your queen and you move something else like knight there, you could say in this position, oh, knight e4 is not really a threat, I'm not scared, I'll just move my queen. You could say, oh, knight d5 is not a threat, I'll play queen takes, that's no problem. But as soon as you make a different move, all of a sudden knight d5 is crushing. You make a different move, all of a sudden knight e4 is crushing. So it's not just about will someone have a threat in the current position, but can you even make a move without them having a threat later? And then it's just not worth the calculation headache to try to work out, can I leave my piece here? For the most part, it's good to just get it out of the way.